welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2024. I hope you're well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before the reading begins, if you're interested, there's loads of information down in the description box that you can check out while you're listening to this reading. If you like, there is a link to the extended for this video. There are 3-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. The link for that is down there in the description box too. And we also have the link to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. If any of those are of interest to you, you know what to do with those links. But I've also got things like the decks that I use down there too. So do feel free to go check that out. Right, Aquarius, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Aquarius, please? Here's us. 3 cards for Aquarius, please. There we go. Got there in the end. We've got the Page of Pentacles and the 4 of Cups in your recent past. What about the current energy for Aquarius, please? Oh, goodness. We've got the 8 of Pentacles in reverse. And what's coming towards Aquarius, please, for May? Oh, goodness. 3 of Swords. Interesting. Because when these cards came up here, what I felt was there had been some sort of abortive attempt to get something started. And we're seeing that playing out over the cards moving forwards. At the bottom of the deck, we have the 3 of Wands, which is interesting too. Let me just grab this deck here for clarifiers. Because we've definitely got movement, but we've got restriction too. We see that in the 8 of Pentacles. And we also see that in the 4 of Cups. But let's get some more cards and see what else is going on here. Tell me about the Page of Pentacles and 4 of Cups, please. We've got the Page of Cups. We have the High Priestess. Let's get one more for that. And a reversal, I think. Yeah, 6 of Swords. Tell me about the 8 of Pentacles, please. Ooh, they flew out. Right. We have the Emperor and the Death card. And then the 3 of Swords, please. Page of Wands. Oh, goodness. 10 of Pentacles in reverse. And the Moon. Interesting. But we do have the Magician at the bottom of this deck. I'm breaking everything. Let's just pop that there so you can see it. I think that this is very good, but I think that the month of May might be a little bit frustrating for you because, as I said at the beginning, and I maintain that this is where this reading is going. There's something that you've been trying to get off the ground, but it needs some revision for whatever reason. Now, it might be, and I think it's likely looking at these cards here, that you're just not thinking big enough at this point, Aquarius. And I know that's an interesting thing to say, but that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting off the cards here. Because there is a feeling of going back to the drawing board in some sort of way. And a feeling that it might, by definition, erase some of the work that you've already done. But there's an improvement in going right back to the start rather than trying to pimp what it is that you've already created. Now, I'll get into the specifics of this a little bit more as we run through the cards, but that's the kind of general overview feeling of it. It's not that you're not supposed to move forwards, you absolutely are, but it's moving forwards differently than in the way that you had anticipated. And dare I say it, with a little bit more force, and I'll explain why I think that shortly. So we start over here with the Page of Pentacles and the 4 of Cups. Now, the 4 of Cups is... it can often be associated with things like abandonment issues and things like that. But I feel in your case, it's a little bit more the sense of apathy, a sense of boredom with something. Now, those are probably kind of strong words for what it is that you're feeling here, because there's a kind of restlessness. There's a sort of unsettled energy about what it is that you've been trying to bring about. Page of Pentacles is always about an initiation of some sort, and because it's Pentacles, generally it's in the area that you can see and perceive this, although not always, because for me the Pentacles represent a kind of energetic currency that that can be represented by the energy that you put into something, or your attention, as much as anything else. There's a slightly fractured feeling about where you have been. I mean, it could well be that actually what you've been trying to pay attention to, that there have been a number of other things that have been pulling you in a different direction. So your ability to be able to focus isn't quite what it should be. We've got the Page of Cups there, and we've got the Six of Swords here. And it's funny how it feels like you've been dragged back to the past in some sort of way. The Six of Swords is about leaving stuff behind, right? We've got the movement from the choppy waters into the calmer waters there, into the smoother waters. And there's a sense that there's some sort of movement, there's some sort of relocation away from something when the Six of Swords is in the upright. When it's in the reverse, it is a return. And so whilst you've been trying to initiate in one direction, and you've been trying to pull all of your energy in that direction, something has been pulling you backwards. And I think it's the last place that you wanted to go. Aquarius, I find, is one of those signs where there's a sort of acceptance of whatever the, for example, your early childhood experiences are. It's like, yeah, that happened, it's what it is, but I am resolutely looking forwards at all points. You know, Aquarius seems to have that ability to be able to draw a line under past experiences and go, well, I'm just simply not going to think about that anymore. But the High Priestess, which is an open conduit, and so definitely an opening of an energy inside of you, seems to be kind of knocking on the door and saying, it's time for you to have a look at this. And probably I'm not really going to let you move forwards until you have. Not because I want to haul you over the coals and make you miserable, but because I want you to let this go rather than draw a line under it and not think about it anymore, because these things don't go away. Now, there's a... No, do I want to? I'm trying to think which other deck that I want to bring up here. It's the Triple Goddess. Let's just get this from over here. Because there's a little bit more going on here than I feel is coming up to the surface just in those cards. Five of Pentacles. Interesting. And the Chariot, yeah. Okay. And the Two of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. I mean, it truly is a case of being pulled in two different directions. There's a direction that you want to go in, which is the Chariot, and that is relentlessly moving forwards. But there's something about time spent in a Five of Pentacles state that is requiring some sort of return. Now, this is to release you, Aquarius. It's so that you don't have to section off portions of your mind in order to be able to function. It's just like, let it out, let it be, accept it, just release it, let it go. But first, you've got to go and open that door or pull down that wall or do something. There's a return that has been incredibly uncomfortable, and it's probably brought up feelings that you thought you had buried a long time ago. You know, the stuff that was dead and buried in the ground and wasn't going to come up again. And it's very internal. We can see that with the High Priestess. In fact, we can see it in the Chariot too, because although the Chariot does talk about determination and victory and goal setting and really getting out there to do things, it does also speak about internal balancing. And what this is saying is that you need much more of your brain and probably more specifically your emotion to deal with whatever is in front of you than you have currently apportioned to it. And so the frustrations about being dragged backwards are so that we can sort these things out properly. Now, the Five of Pentacles, for me, remember what I said about energetic currency. When the fives appear, it's an instability. And that's true right across the board, right? Five of Pentacles, Five of Wands, Five of Swords, whatever. There's some sort of instability. Things are kind of shaking around somewhat. And it's around the idea of meeting one's own basic needs. You can see here from the card, there's a the body language is of frustration, but she is literally out there in the cold. She is isolated in some sort of way. And when you really dig down into it, it's that sense of having abandoned ourselves, which is interesting because over here, there's a sense of us being personally abandoned. And then over here, there's a sense of us having done it to ourselves. No, I'm not, please don't think for a second that I'm saying that anything that's happened to you is your fault or anything like that. What I'm saying is that there is a bit of you that is currently not accessible by you and can only be reached by way of coming back into contact with something that you thought was gone. And wrestling with the uncomfortable feelings that come up as a result of it. Now, when we move into your current energy, we've got the Eight of Pentacles in reverse, and that's significant, with the Emperor and the Death card. Now, you've got two major arcana cards underpinning this card, which in the upright talks about getting your head down and really working at something, right? Achieving mastery by way of discipline and commitment. But we see it in the reverse here. Now, for some of you, it could be not wanting to do what you do for employment anymore. You know, literally what it is that you do to earn pentacles of that sort. But it would be about not wanting to actually to invest the time, effort and energy, attention into a particular thing. And I think that's interesting that I'm saying that there's something that you've been trying to initiate, but you're kind of going backwards, and that feeling of going back to the drawing board. Because something about this experience here is changing where your priorities are laying in the present and then moving forwards. Because these big energies here, the Emperor, which is about planning and strategy and taking control. It's also about, sovereignty and I've forgotten the word that I'm looking for. Autonomy. There we go, autonomy. Is here hand in hand with the Death card. Now, we're really skimming over the top of this, Aquarius, but there's something here about what you control versus what controls you. And the extent to which you have been, perhaps, up until recently, like I said, kind of oblivious to these invisible strings of control inside your emotional space that situations have been pulling on here, there and everywhere. And the reason why you're oblivious to it is because it's been screened off, it's been sectioned off. We're not going to deal with that. Well, we've dealt with that as much as we're going to. We're drawing a line underneath it. We're not going to do any more. The Death card is also always indicative of some sort of transformation, yes, but a complete overhaul in the way that we do things. When you pair it up with the Emperor, we've got the sense of initiation, because it's an Aries card. But we've got some sort of less hands-on idea of control. I don't know why this is, Aquarius, but it does feel like there is something that you've done that's going to need to be undone. And I don't think it's because you've rushed it. I think it's because what's coming up this month is very, very internal. And the outward expression of what you are trying to achieve is going to change as a result of what happens in this internal space. You know, we've got Aries, we've got Scorpio here, both of them kind of, well, the yin and the yang of Mars, actually. And that's quite interesting because both of them talk about action, but there's a balance here. We're not pushing forwards regardless, a very, Aries version of Mars where it's chopping and cutting and warrioring around. Neither is it the more yin expression of Mars, which is Scorpio, which is a little bit more below the radar. But they are quite balanced in their approach. And the fact that the Eight of Pentacles is in reverse is saying like there's something that needs to be kind of overhauled, done again, unpicked, restarted, but coming from a much more balanced place. I mean, remember that we had the Chariot over here, which also talks about balance. We've got these initiatory cards over here, which are a bit lame when compared against the energy of the Emperor, which would explain why what you've been trying to start, what you've been trying to get off the ground, isn't really gaining any traction. But back to the drawing board energy, right? And as I'm looking at it, kind of ignoring all of this and linking this back to the High Priestess, saying there's something about the way that you feel that needs to be changed first, that clears the way in front of you. Tell me about the Emperor and the Death card, please. So we've got the Strength card there and the Fool. Oh, there you go. More major arcana. We've got double Aries here with the initiation. Balance across here. Double initiatory here. And we've got the Strength card, speaking to growth. Not the kind of expansion of circumstances, but growth through healing. Growth through being open. Growth through being vulnerable, actually. And this isn't to say that you need to, start confessing all of your deepest and darkest worries and insecurities to everybody. That's not what vulnerability means. It simply means bringing what's on the inside up to the surface. And the reason why this is important, Aquarius, is because there is something in that experience, or at least the processing of that experience, that is shifting around the way that you're going to do things moving forwards. This is why the necessity for unpicking some of what you've already done is arising. Now, when we move into May, we've got the Three of Swords, and I love the fact that it's this one here, because within the Tower of the Abyss, there are two depictions of the Three of Swords. There are two depictions of the Ten of Swords too. And one of each of those is exactly as you would expect for a deck that is based on the Waite-Smith. But the others are Anatorian's reinterpretation of those energies, and she's so spot on with this Three of Swords here, because the way that I look at this looks like somebody to me reading the book of their life, right? They're going back through the database of their experiences, and rather than looking at the pop-up swords, which is what a lot of us see when we look back into our past, he's looking beyond that, and he's looking at the words on the screen, and they're actually on the screen, on the book, and they're actually lifting off the book and turning into birds and coming back into his head. There's a process here of a changing of a narrative that you've held for a long time. Like, this to me is a book, somebody's looking at the story of their life, and they're seeing where they made their mistakes. They're seeing where there are certain things that are coming up in the here and now that are directly related to things that occurred in the past. And within here is an opportunity to reset those. Right? We bring wisdom, we bring maturity, we bring a different kind of outlook to the same situation when we allow ourselves to go back to it. We've got the Three of Wands and the Magician at the bottom of the deck here, and they're both in their own ways speak to me about manifestation, because obviously the Magician is the application of will. I'm going to literally actively manifest something. But the Three of Wands is a card of manifestation for me too, because if the Two of Wands is where we consider what our next step is going to be, what do we actually want to do, right? And because it's two, it's very internal. The Three of Wands becomes the outward expression of that. What are we actually going to do? What do we actually want to create? What do we actually want to manifest? I said to you that I thought that you'd been thinking a little bit small, and that hasn't really gone away, that feeling. You've been thinking a bit too small about what it is that you're trying to do. And I'm not sure why that is. For each of you, it's probably going to be something slightly different. But it suggests that somewhere there's a core wound in you that you have not seen, that has been kind of... It feels like it's flitting around, trying to get your attention, and unable to get it in any way other than dragging you back to a past situation. Now, sometimes you don't have to physically come into contact with that past situation, say, seeing someone from the past or something like that. Sometimes it just coming up into your mind is enough, because it spurs all of those thought processes associated with someone that you may not have thought about for a very long time, or a set of people or a particular set of circumstances. But there's something incredibly beneficial about this. Now, I would go as far as to say, Aquarius, for most of you, this is related to family. Why do I say that? Well, I say that because core wounds generally are formed there. While we're growing up, we're still young, very plastic, very malleable, all that sort of thing. But also because this Ten of Pentacles is here and it's in the reverse. Now, in the upright, this is the Happy Family card. Well, it's one of the Happy Family cards. The other one is the Ten of Cups. But there's this interesting sense of heritage and legacy that I see whenever I look at this card. Right? I mean, we can talk about generational karma and generational trauma, in fact, and all those sorts of things that come through here. But ultimately, it talks about stability and security. It is, after all, what an Ace of Pentacles wants to turn into. It's what the Page of Pentacles is trying to create over here. And the Eight of Pentacles would be a necessary step to get there. But it showed up in the reverse for you, which then speaks of a destabilization of some sort. Excuse me. Not necessarily within the family per se, but within the idea of what stability and security actually means to you. Because perhaps you've been putting a lot of your attention on external expressions of that. I think that would probably be the case. When the biggest movement has to happen inside. Now we've got the moon there speaking to, the internal journey. The moon for me is the subconscious. It's getting in touch with the subconscious and seeing, what I was saying, where I feel like your subconscious, at least your emotions, have been pulling some strings here, there and everywhere and actually guiding you along. But you have not realized quite how much that's been at play. And that would be true if you were keeping things very, very small, when actually everything about what's going on here should be about expansion. Because the Page of Wands is the preceding card to the Knight of Wands, which is a Sagittarius card, which is about expansion. But there's something that has to be gone over. Now, the Three of Swords, the meaning of the Three of Swords is always going to revolve around the idea of some kind of pain, right? The introduction of truth to an emotional space so that it can be properly understood. And there's something in this that is causing huge growth in you, Aquarius. And that's the important thing. But in terms of results, it means, I think, that you're going to be scaling up considerably what it is that you're trying to do. Now, for some of you, it could be around where you literally physically live. For others, it'll be about business. Ten of Pentacles can talk about that. The question that I want to ask you when I see these two cards here is, what is stopping you from pushing beyond where you are right now? Not just a little, but a lot. We've got the Six of Swords, which, my goodness, is amazing because we have it in the reverse here. This process is designed to help you move beyond where you are, move away from something in a more meaningful way, right? Not just screening things off and dare I say it, pretending that it didn't happen, but certainly not thinking about it, to actually ridding the body, the soul, the spirit of the weight of what has happened before, move it out of the way and say, I can actually do things for myself. This idea of stability and security, like I said, it feels like your efforts have been outside of you. And the efforts really do need to be turned within. Because this problem-solving thing that Aquarius is famed for, quite rightly, is all very well and good, but it's something in here. So it's not about solving the problem without yourself. It's about allowing yourself to grow within yourself. Making you bigger rather than the problems smaller. The issues smaller, let's put it that way. Goodness, got a whole glut of cards. We've got the Nine of Swords, we've got the Page of Swords, we've got the Ten of Wands, and we've got the King of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles. What the fuck? That's so many cards. Right. There are things coming up to the surface here that have the potential to change dramatically your take on what you actually need to move forwards. You know, there's a lot of rustling around about the idea of stability and security with that Ten of Pentacles in reverse. But then we also have the Nine of Wands and Nine of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles there. We've got the Ten of Wands, which is asking you to stop working quite so hard at something in the way that you've been doing it. And it's actually the only card in the tarot, any tarot deck that I own, where somebody's actually put the burden down, which is what we talk about a lot on this within the tarot. But there's a similar sort of feeling with that Eight of Pentacles in reverse there. It's like, why are you trying to put yourself into the ground with what you're trying to achieve here? When it's almost like you're trying to fill a space in you, Aquarius, and what's needed here is a step back and perhaps an integration of a certain bit of yourself that you thought was, like I said, gone. And then allowing that to change the perspective that you hold. You know, the Nine of Swords is all about perspective. It's how are you managing your mind? You know, the things that you used to worry about in the past. I mean, that Nine of Swords there in the Triple Goddess, for me, suggests that whatever it was from your past was exactly as bad as you thought it was, because all the swords are pointing down, and I have that kind of fairly arbitrary rule about swords up good, swords down bad. Usually in the Nine of Swords, they're presented horizontally. This is saying, nah, it was actually really shit. We can see why you would have put it away in a dusty corner of your mind, not to have to worry about it anymore. But there's a piece of you that went with it, and there's a piece of you that needs to come back. Because this Nine of Pentacles talks about self-sufficiency and independence. But more importantly than that, it talks about how you manage your resources. Your money, your time, your care, your effort. Now, we talked about this already, like a desire to stop investing in a particular thing to go in a different direction instead. Because what you thought was stability and security in a Ten of Pentacles upright there, on the other side of this set of thought processes and this set of emotional processings actually feels very, very different to you. So it isn't that you've gone too small. It's that you're kind of rammed down a road that you're not supposed to go. There's something much more spiritually expansive that's waiting for you, perhaps emotionally expansive. Over the course of this month, if you can take the time to go within and allow yourself to feel what was really, really shit. Like, when we seal that stuff off in our head, it's because we don't want to fucking feel it anymore. No, thank you. That wasn't very nice. Let's put it away. But this is saying, wake that up. Allow yourself to feel it. And then allow yourself to put it down. I like the Death card when it shows up because it's about creating space. I was talking about how, your life, your mind, your heart, all of those, they're like rooms. There's only so many things that you can stuff in there before things need to be kind of cleared out. And I think you've hit clear out point. But this isn't just a spring cleaning exercise. There's something actually really important that's coming up in that processing that's allowing you to get much more focused on what is actually really important to you. And realizing how much more stable and secure you are simply because you can see it in a way that you could not see it before. Does this make sense, Aquarius? I think this is where I'm going with this. Excuse me. which feels all in all, I'm going to say as an Aquarius South Node, it feels like a bit of a ball ache, to be honest. But that Nine of Pentacles feels like the most significant card here. Well, the Nine of Pentacles together with these two cards, the Three of Wands and the Magician. I love the fact that this lady in the Nine of Pentacles is looking directly at the Magician here. Don't be afraid to undo what you've done, Aquarius. Don't be afraid to, in any respect, don't be afraid to go backwards, just briefly. Because whatever time you feel like is lost is recouped very, very quickly. And before you know it, you've actually overtaken where you could have been. And driving forwards in a much more successful way. This is very strange. I'm going to go over and do the extended now. So you're very welcome to join me over there if you would like to. You can join me on Circle or you can join me on Vimeo. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If not, not to worry. I think you need to take a deep breath and just stay still. Just for a moment. And allow the things to come up that want to come up. And then just exhale. Let them go. Let them out. And go back over your plans. Because something significant is shifting. There's a different set of eyes that you're bringing to the table once you've done that. And it might actually go backwards and forwards over the course of May, where you're, refining and honing what it is that you think that you want over the entire month. But there's a learning from your mistakes that's coming up here. And that's possibly why it's important for you not to draw a line under your mistakes, but actually go back and revisit them so you have that information to hand. It's like rubbing everything out and starting again, but knowing exactly how much of the piece of paper this is all going to take up and just writing it out cleanly, metaphorically speaking. It's really, really interesting. Right, I'm going to go because I'm waffling. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.